Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. For years, there have been rumors floating around about the BRICS nations releasing their own currency, a currency designed to rival the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency and also to supplant the dollar as the primary means of settling international payments. Now, up until this point, these have just been rumors, and although in 2022 we did see the de-dollarization trend picking up some steam, we saw more bilateral trade agreements, countries using their local currency to settle payments, still, the dollar retains the lion's share of international payment settlement, and it is still firmly the world's reserve currency. But now we have gotten a confirmation of a date when this BRICS currency may be rolled out, or at least the first steps taken in that direction. And we're going to get into it in today's video. Today's video sponsor is SD Bullion, my preferred source for precious metals. You can check them out with the link down in the description. And now let's get into this story. So this was reported by the TASS Russian news agency. It's regarding some statements made by Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister. Now I'm just going to read the quote to you from this report from TASS when Lavrov said, "Exactly in this direction initiatives are coming, stated just recently about the need to think about creating internal currencies within the framework of BRICS. This will certainly be discussed at the BRICS Summit, which will be held in the Republic of South Africa in late August, and where a group of African nations will be invited, including, as I understand, President Lourenco." Now, President Lourenco is the president of Angola. I don't think I'm butchering his name, but I may be. And these comments were given after a meeting between Lavrov and Lourenco, so hence that comment. Now, he went on to say, Lavrov that is, quote, "Serious countries with self-respect understand very well what is at stake. They see the underhandedness of the masters of the current international monetary system and want to create their mechanisms to ensure sustainability that would be protected from the external directive." Now, regardless of how you feel about Lavrov, I know every time I mention this guy, I get a lot of people in the comments talking about how you can't, trust anything he says, but I don't think that this is really a matter of opinion. I think that he's just kind of summing up pretty succinctly the motivations of countries like China who are de-dollarizing, and also, countries like Saudi Arabia who may be de-dollarizing soon. Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, when the US froze Russian dollar-denominated assets, that was kind of like opening Pandora's box. By weaponizing the dollar, we've sent a strong message to any country holding dollars that the political winds can now shift, and they might find themselves in the crosshairs next. And this is precisely the reason why China has been dumping US treasuries, and that's kind of a big deal because they are the second largest holder of US debt. It's also why they've been accumulating gold, and it's also why at Davos recently the Saudi Arabian finance minister floated the idea of accepting non-dollar payments for oil exports. Now, this BRICS summit that's coming up, it's going to be hosted at South Africa in August, like Lavrov said. So now we have confirmation of 2 points that will be on the agenda at this summit. As Lavrov tells us here, creating a new currency system to rival the dollar will be something that they will be working on, and perhaps we will get a major announcement regarding that system because, let's be honest, they've been working on this behind the scenes for some time now. It's just a matter of time until they decide to roll this out. And also, South Africa, the host of this BRICS Summit, they've been pretty vocal about admitting new members to the BRICS organization and forming, I don't know what they'll call it, maybe a BRICS Plus. And that means that we may see Saudi Arabia inducted into BRICS as early as this year, as they are one of the nations that has expressed an interest in joining the BRICS organization. And the signs of the coming de-dollarization, they're all around for anyone who's paying attention. You got China and Russia and central banks around the world stockpiling gold at breakneck pace, the fastest pace since the 60s. You've got Russia and Iran who have recently announced that they're working on a gold-backed stablecoin cryptocurrency, probably something that's going to be designed to be used to settle payments for energy products. Those two countries alone, Russia and Iran, they possess more than 40% of world's natural gas reserves, so they're certainly going to have some influence on how those payments are made. And finally, the really big one is that Saudi Arabia has been floating the idea that they may be de-dollarizing. And of course, Saudi Arabia selling their oil for dollars exclusively is pretty much the fundamental cornerstone of the petrodollar system, one of the main underpinnings of the dollar status as the world reserve currency. Now, all these developments, they don't mean that the dollar is going away anytime soon. The dollar has been the world reserve currency for about 80 years now, and that's not the sort of thing that's going to end overnight. The dollar might even retain the title of world reserve currency for a long time, but the world that uses the dollar as their primary reserve could end up being much smaller. It'll be the G7, so Europe, Japan, the US, whereas the rest of the world, they may continue to transact in dollars to some extent, but they will be trying to reduce their exposure to dollar weaponization. And so there will be rival currencies, maybe a BRICS currency or maybe just gold in some form, and the dollar's market share is going to shrink. Because look, countries, they want to look out for their best interest. They use the dollar now because it's convenient. The petrodollar is a big part of that. There's kind of this network effect where Saudi Arabia started accepting exclusively dollars for their oil. They're the world's biggest oil exporter. And so anybody who wanted to buy oil had to have dollars. The other OPEC nations followed suit because it just became convenient and easy for everybody to transact in dollars, everybody to be on the same page. But now, in this new era that we are entering of a multipolar world and where financial assets have been weaponized with this fifth generational warfare, de-dollarization is marching right along. And as the conflict in Eastern Europe continues to escalate, which it is, there's no doubt about that. Check out the video I put out yesterday. The economic warfare is going to ramp up as well. And this is an arena in which the US and its allies are potentially more vulnerable than on any kinetic battlefield. Sure, the US has aircraft carriers, we've got tanks, we probably have the best trained military in the world. They've got a lot of experience, certainly, after the past 20 years. But we also have $31.5 trillion in debt and $170 trillion in unfunded liabilities because of all of our entitlement programs. So the BRICS nations, believe it or not, I know a lot of people who watch this channel based on the comments, they seem to think that they have these vulnerable, ramshackle economies. But the fact is that they have much lower debt levels than most Western nations, and they also control a huge chunk of the world's natural resources. When you include China, they have massive manufacturing capacity, and they also possess a huge chunk of the world's populations. And so they do pose a viable threat to the US dollar and to the US financial hegemony. So if we don't see some big moves in the price of the precious metals, gold and silver, before August of this year, they probably will be coming then. Because whatever form that BRICS announcement takes, whether they release a currency backed up by a basket of currencies or backed up by commodities or maybe just backed up by gold, it's not going to be good for the dollar. So as for me, I will be taking advantage of this window to prepare. I'm going to continue stacking physical metal and to a lesser extent building up positions in the gold and silver miners. It's not financial advice, it's just what I'm doing, so take it with a grain of salt. Let me know how you're preparing down in the comments, and let me know what you think about these developments in the comments as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. Smart Silver Stacker, out.